Welcome to my channel of Gill Master Stories. Don't forget to subscribe button and press on the bell icon for more inspiration and mind-blowing stories. He thought he was just doing the right thing. But when a police car showed up at his door hours later, 13-year-old Jason's life changed forever in ways he never imagined. The sun hung low over the quiet streets of Camden, New Jersey, casting long shadows as school children shuffled home. Jason, a bright-eyed 13-year-old, was taking his usual route down Franklin Avenue. His backpack bounced with every step, the loose strap flapping against his side. He had just finished an intense math quiz and was mentally replaying the problems he had skipped, when something caught his eye, a wallet lying on the sidewalk near a cracked curb. Jason froze mid-step, glancing around to see if anyone was nearby. The street was mostly empty, save for a neighbor's barking dog. Behind a chain-link fence, cautiously, he bent down and picked up the worn leather wallet. Its edges scuffed with age. He flipped it open. Inside was a driver's license, a few crisp $20 bills, and some scattered cards. The license belonged to a woman named Denise Harper, and judging by the address, she lived just a few blocks away. Jason thought for a moment. It would have been easy to pocket the cash. No one was watching after all. But his mother's voice rang in his ears. Integrity is what you do when no one's looking. Without a second thought, he zipped the wallet into his backpack and made his way to the address on the ID. Denise's house was a modest, brick home with a faded blue door. Jason hesitated as he climbed the porch steps. Suddenly nervous, what if she thought he had stolen it? His palms felt clammy as he knocked. A few seconds later, the door opened, and a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a messy bun peered out. "Yes?" she asked, her expression curious. Jason fumbled with his words. "Hi, I found this wallet on the sidewalk, and I think it's yours." He pulled it out of his bag and held it out to her. Denise's eyes widened in surprise. "Oh my goodness, that's mine. I didn't even realize I dropped it," she said, taking the wallet with both hands. Her relief was palpable. "Thank you so much, young man. You don't know how much trouble you just saved me." Jason shrugged, trying to play it cool. But the hint of a smile tugged at his lips. "It's no problem," he said, stepping back toward the porch steps. "I just thought it was the right thing to do." As he turned to leave, Denise called after him. "Wait, what's your name?" "Jason," he replied, pausing mid-step. "Well, Jason, you've got a good heart. I owe you one." Jason nodded, muttered a shy thanks, and jogged off, his sneakers scuffing against the pavement. As he disappeared down the street, Denise stood in the doorway, clutching her wallet and smiling to herself. Little did Jason know, that small moment of kindness was about to take a turn he couldn't have anticipated. Later that evening, Jason sat at the kitchen table, hunched over his homework, while the aroma of baked chicken wafted through the air. His mom, Gloria, moved around the small but cozy kitchen, humming a tune as she prepared dinner. Jason's younger sister, Tasha, played with her dolls on the living room rug, her laughter occasionally breaking the quiet. It was shaping up to be an ordinary evening, until the sound of tires crunching on gravel broke the rhythm of the household. Jason glanced up as faint red and blue lights flashed against the kitchen window. "Mom," he called cautiously. Gloria frowned, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She moved to the window, peeking through the curtains. "It's a police car," she said, her voice laced with confusion. Jason's stomach dropped. He couldn't think of anything he'd done wrong, but the sight of the patrol car unsettled him. Before anyone could speculate further, there was a knock at the door, firm but not aggressive. Gloria exchanged a quick glance with Jason. Before heading to answer it, Jason trailed behind her, his heart thudding loudly in his chest. Standing on the porch was a tall man in a crisp police uniform. His face was stern, but his eyes carried a glimmer of something that wasn't quite seriousness. "Good evening, ma'am," the officer said politely. "Is Jason home?" Jason's breath caught in his throat. Gloria instinctively stepped protectively in front of him. "What's this about, officer?" The man cleared his throat, glancing briefly at Jason. We received a report about a wallet that was returned earlier today. I'd like to ask Jason a few questions." Jason stepped forward, his voice trembling slightly. "Yes, sir. I gave the wallet back. I found it on the sidewalk." The officer squinted, leaning down slightly as if scrutinizing Jason's face. "And you're sure you didn't take anything out of it?" Before returning it, Jason's jaw dropped. "What? No. I didn't take anything." Gloria's tone turned sharp. "Now wait just a minute. My son did the right thing, and you're here accusing him of stealing." Before the tension could escalate further, the officer's stern expression broke into a wide grin. "Relax, ma'am," he said, holding up his hands in mock surrender. "I'm just messing with him." Jason blinked in confusion. "What?" At that moment, Denise Harper stepped out from behind the officer. Laughing, "Jason, I'm so sorry for scaring you," she said, her voice full of warmth. "This is my son, Chris. He's a police officer, and we thought it'd be fun to give you a little surprise for being such a good kid." Jason stared at them, his confusion slowly giving way to relief, and then disbelief. "Wait, this was a joke?" Chris chuckled, reaching out to shake Jason's hand. "Not just a joke, kid. I wanted to personally thank you for doing the right thing. You've got more integrity than a lot of adults I've met." Denise stepped forward, placing a hand on Jason's shoulder. "I'm serious, Jason. What you did today meant a lot to me. People don't always go out of their way to return something like that. You deserve to be celebrated." Jason felt the tension leave his body as a small smile crept onto his face. "I didn't think it was a big deal," he admitted. "Well, it was," Denise said firmly. "And I don't forget people who do good things. You'll see." Chris gave Jason a playful salute before stepping back toward the patrol car. Denise waved goodbye, promising to see him again soon. As the car pulled away, Jason turned to his mom, who was still trying to process what had just happened. "Well," Gloria said, shaking her head with a wry smile, "that's one way to say thank you." Jason chuckled nervously, his earlier fear fading into a strange mix of pride and amusement. Little did he know, this was just the beginning of a life-changing friendship. The next morning, Jason woke up feeling a mix of embarrassment and curiosity about the events of the previous evening. As he walked to school, his thoughts kept drifting back to Denise and Officer Chris. It was strange, yet oddly comforting, how they had gone out of their way to acknowledge something he thought was just the right thing to do. By the time Jason got home that afternoon, he had almost forgotten about it, until there was another knock at the door. This time it was Denise herself, holding a small gift bag. "-1, Jason," she greeted him warmly. "I wanted to stop by and thank you again." Properly this time. Jason hesitated before opening the screen door. "You didn't have to do that, Miss Harper." Denise chuckled. "I wanted to. Besides, I owe you an apology for scaring you like that last night. Chris gets his sense of humor from me, unfortunately." She handed him the bag. Jason peeked inside to find a gift card to his favorite sneaker store and a handwritten note. The gesture took him by surprise. "Wow, thank you," he said, his voice almost a whisper. "Don't mention it," Denise said. "But you know, I wasn't kidding when I said I don't forget people who do good things. I'd love to get to know you better, Jason. You remind me of my son when he was your age. Always doing the right thing even when it's not easy." Jason didn't quite know how to respond. He glanced over his shoulder at his mom, who had come to the door and was now watching the interaction with a cautious but intrigued expression. Gloria stepped forward, her tone polite but measured. "That's very kind of you, Miss Harper. What exactly do you have in mind?" "Well," Denise began, "Jason mentioned he likes science. My niece works at the local community college, and I think he'd love their summer STEM program. I could help get him in if he's interested." Jason's eyes widened. "Really? That would be amazing." Gloria studied Denise for a moment, then looked at her son. Jason's enthusiasm was hard to ignore. Finally, she smiled. "That's very generous of you. We'd love to hear more about it." And just like that, a connection began to form. Over the following weeks, Denise stopped by often, always bringing something small: cookies, a book, or even just a kind word. She seemed genuinely invested in Jason's future. And slowly Gloria's initial wariness faded. Jason soon found himself spending more time with Denise, visiting her home, and even meeting some of her extended family. Denise wasn't just a kind neighbor, she became a mentor. She encouraged Jason to dream bigger, helping him see possibilities he hadn't considered before. One day, while they were sitting on her porch, Denise asked Jason, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" Jason thought for a moment. "I want to be an engineer. I like building things. And my teacher says I'm good at math." Denise nodded, a thoughtful smile spreading across her face. "That's a great goal, Jason. And you know what? You're going to make it. I'll do everything I can to help you get there." Her words weren't just empty promises. Denise connected Jason with a local robotics club, helped him apply for scholarships, and even introduced him to people in her own network who could guide him. For Jason, it wasn't just about the opportunities. It was about the belief Denise had in him. It was the kind of belief that fueled his confidence and made him feel like he could accomplish anything. But their bond wasn't one-sided. Denise often shared stories of her own struggles, and Jason found himself becoming a source of encouragement for her as well. He reminded her of the power of simple acts of kindness and how they could ripple into something much bigger. Their friendship became a cornerstone in both their lives, and the once unlikely pair soon felt more like family. Over the next few months, Jason's relationship with Denise deepened in ways he never expected. She wasn't just a friendly neighbor anymore, she became a mentor, a guide, and a consistent presence in his life. Jason found himself spending more time at Denise's house, learning from her and her extended circle of friends and family. One day, Denise invited Jason and Gloria to a small community event she was hosting at a local library in Camden. The event was focused on mentorship and opportunities for young people. Jason wasn't sure what to expect, but as they entered the library's event space, he was amazed by the energy in the room. Tables were set up with information on various programs, everything from scholarships to internships, and local professionals were there to answer questions. "Jason," Denise said, pulling him aside, "I want you to meet someone." She led him to a man in his early 30s who was tinkering with a miniature robot at one of the booths. "This is Dr. Ellis," she explained. "He's an engineer at one of the top firms in Philadelphia, and he used to mentor kids just like you." Jason's eyes lit up. He and Dr. Ellis spent the next hour talking about robotics, coding, and engineering. For the first time, Jason could clearly envision himself in that world. When the event ended, Jason thanked Denise with a hug, a rare gesture for him. "I don't know how to thank you for all of this," he said. "You don't have to," Denise replied with a warm smile. "Just promise me you'll never stop believing in yourself." That promise stayed with Jason, especially during the more challenging moments of his journey. One of those moments came a few weeks later, when Jason entered a robotics competition through the club Denise had helped him join. He was confident in his design, but froze during the presentation, overwhelmed by the crowd and the pressure to perform. Later, Jason sat on the curb outside the venue, staring at the pieces of his robot. Denise found him there, her face filled with concern. "What happened in there?" she asked, gently sitting down beside him. Jason shook his head. "I messed up. I couldn't even finish explaining how it works. Everyone else was so much better than me." Denise didn't rush to respond. She let the silence linger for a moment before speaking. "Jason, do you know how many times I've failed at things I cared about? More times than I can count. But failure isn't the end. It's just part of the process." Jason looked up at her, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "What if I'm not good enough?" Denise smiled softly. "You're more than good enough. And if you ever forget that, I'll be here to remind you." Her words were enough to rekindle Jason's determination. He decided to rework his presentation for the next competition this time, leaning into the support system Denise had helped him build. The weeks following the competition were a turning point for Jason. With Denise's encouragement and support, he poured himself into refining his robot design. And practicing his presentation, she invited Dr. Ellis over for one-on-one coaching sessions, and Jason found himself learning not only about engineering, but also about confidence and preparation. On the day of the next competition, Denise arrived early to pick Jason up. She noticed his hands trembling slightly. As he held his robot, nervous, she asked with a knowing smile. "A little," Jason admitted. "What if I mess up again?" Denise placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You've already done the hard part, Jason. You didn't give up, whatever happens today. Just remember how far you've come." At the competition, Jason stood among a group of bright, ambitious kids, each with their own creations. The energy in the room was electric, but instead of letting it overwhelm him, Jason focused on the advice Denise had given him. He reminded himself that this wasn't just about winning. It was about showing up and doing his best. When it was finally his turn to present, Jason stepped up to the podium, took a deep breath, and began speaking. His voice wavered at first, but as he explained his robot's functionality, he gained confidence. By the time he finished, the audience was clapping enthusiastically. Jason didn't win first place that day, but he walked away with something far more valuable: a newfound belief in himself. On the ride home, Denise couldn't stop smiling. "You were incredible out there, Jason," she said. Jason grinned, his earlier doubts replaced by pride. "I couldn't have done it without you." As time went on, Jason continued to thrive, with Denise's help. He applied for a prestigious summer program at a university in Philadelphia. The application process was grueling, but Denise guided him through every step, from writing his essay to preparing for the interview. When the acceptance letter finally arrived, Jason ran straight to Denise's house, waving the envelope in the air. "I got in," he shouted, breathless with excitement. Denise hugged him tightly, tears of joy welling in her eyes. "I knew you would," she said softly. Years passed, and Jason's journey was nothing short of remarkable. He graduated from high school at the top of his class, went on to study engineering at a prestigious university, and eventually landed his dream job at a cutting-edge robotics firm. Throughout it all, Denise remained a constant in his life. She attended his graduations, celebrated his achievements, and reminded him of the values that had brought him this far. Jason often reflected on how much his life had changed because of her kindness and support. One sunny afternoon, Jason returned to Camden to visit Denise. She had recently retired and was spending her days volunteering at the library, where she'd first introduced him to Dr. Ellis. "Denise," Jason began as they sat on her porch, "I don't know where I'd be if I hadn't found your wallet that day." Denise laughed, shaking her head. "You'd still be amazing, Jason. All I did was give you a little push. The rest was all you." Jason smiled, but his expression turned serious. "I've been thinking. I want to start a scholarship fund for kids in this neighborhood who have big dreams, but need a little help to get there. I want to call it the Harper Scholarship in your honor." Denise's eyes filled with tears. "Jason, I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Jason replied with a grin. That moment encapsulated the beauty of their bond, a connection that had grown from a simple act of kindness into a lifelong friendship that transformed not only Jason's life, but also the lives of others in their community. As the story closed, Jason and Denise stood together, watching children play on the street, dreaming of a brighter future for all of them. Their journey was a testament to the power of compassion, integrity, and the unexpected ways people can change each other's lives. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. For more content, please leave your comments and share your experiences. Thank you for being part of Gill Master Stories community. See you soon.